Welcome to a post-Thanksgiving episode of the Baseball Insiders, here to recalibrate the baseball rumor mill ahead of the winter meetings after the holiday. I'm here, joined as always by Fansided's MLB Insider Robert Murray. How you doing, man?
I am great, man. It's good to be back. We missed it for Thanksgiving. I'm hoping everybody had a great Thanksgiving. Adam, you too, as a now married man. So, yeah, how we doing?
Doing good. I'd say the marriage didn't change my Thanksgiving all that much. I still went to my parents' house. We're going to her family for Christmas, which is their major holiday. But Robert, I heard little birdie told me that you had a pretty eventful Thanksgiving dinner. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I was casually just eating dinner with my family, like as you typically do on Thanksgiving.
Such normal behavior for that day. Yeah.
And like I had told them, I'm going to disconnect for the day. It's going to be a family day. It's going to be, I don't know, it's just going to be a chill day. I had my phone right next to me just in case. And as I was taking a bite of Thanksgiving dinner, my phone lights up and I look, and it's a text saying that Jacob Webb is signing with the Los Angeles Angels. So the first Thanksgiving dinner that I've had in Arizona, I ended up breaking a story as I was eating. And my family, they were very understanding. I'm very appreciative of them, but I had to do some sucking up afterwards to make up for it.
I love that we have the Burt Bomb designation at the bottom of the screen. I don't know if it's for the Jacob Webb deal or for the revelation that you had to stop mid-bite and tweet out a contract. But like, if you've spent any time, like anybody who's watched these streams knows that sometimes news just hits you. Like, that's not shocking. It's how it goes down. And were you still able to finish dinner, or was the vibe off from that point?
No, I was able to get it out right away. And then my family was all asking, like, what are you doing? And I'm like, I just reported a story with the Angels. And then they're like, oh, okay. And I just casually went back to eating dinner, and like nothing happened. So my little cousin Connor, who was like, that's my guy. He thought that was pretty cool. So I felt like the cool cousin, at least for once in my life.
Does Connor have Twitter? You didn't want to give him the Jacob Webb scoop, or no?
No, he does not have Twitter. He's one of the smart ones. He does not have any social media whatsoever. It's like, I'm wicked jealous of that.
Good boy, because he's not going to have to pivot to Instagram or anything weird like that. I didn't break anything on my Thanksgiving dinner. I think I broke like a can of beer watching the second half of Giants Cowboys, but I certainly did not break any news. We are here to keep up with the rumors as best we can. Maybe we break something on the pod. You never know. Now is the perfect time for all of you to subscribe to the feed on YouTube, 3:30 Eastern time on Mondays and Thursdays. But next week is the winter meetings, so you're going to expect plenty more live drops next week. We're going to be trying to go live every day, and we're going to be going live as much as we can to empty Robert's notebook. And we got a couple of moves both this weekend and into the week. I think we were hoping for a bit of an avalanche cavalcade to really talk about clarifying some rumors and fits. We got a few, and we got friend of the show, Mike Clevinger, on the move. Chicago White Sox. We are big fans of Clev. He is someone who did not maybe get the chance to dominate in San Diego that we had looked for him to get over the time, that since that trade, that big old trade that sent him from Cleveland to the Padres went down. But now he's going to get a chance to rebuild his value in Chicago. What are you thinking about that? Is that a good fit? And obviously we'll talk about the ramifications in a little bit, but big time chance to rebuild his value with a supposed AL Central contender back where his career began.
Yeah. And the White Sox have long been interested in Clevinger. He's somebody that they tried to trade for when the Guardians were shopping him years ago. And ultimately they were one of the most aggressive teams when it came to Clevinger in the offseason. And there were some questions on whether or not he would get like $8 million per year, $10 million per year, or even like 12 to 15 in that area. Like, it was a pretty wide ballpark that I was hearing from outside people. But the contract, it's a little unique. It's 12 million like guaranteed. But there's word that there might be like an option or like a mutual option in there to like spread out the guaranteed money. But for Clevinger, like, that is a contract that makes a whole lot of sense. A 1-year deal where he's going to try to revamp and like get healthy and also like re-jump his career or jumpstart his career again. And he even dealt with some injuries last year that I don't think many people knew about. He dealt with a knee injury, and that kind of impacted his ability on the mound. So I think it's a worthy gamble by the White Sox. It's getting some Twitter criticism, and I understand it because he struggled last year. But he's got the ability to be a really solid number 2. And for $8 million this year, or for $12 million, for $12 million guaranteed, I think it's a worthy gamble. And now the White Sox don't have to worry about the rotation. I think they're in a really good spot there. And Ethan Katz, their pitching coach, is very highly regarded in league circles. I think Clem did pretty well there. So did the White Sox.
Do you think it's anything beyond a worthy gamble? Do you think that this spills over into the rest of the White Sox offseason? Because we've heard a little bit about them. Lucas Giolito, former guest on our show, told us he had never had extension talks with the team. You're starting to see his name leak into trade rumors at this point, ahead of the winter meetings and ahead of his final season of team control in Chicago. Do you feel like this is, like you said, this is insurance, this is a potential bounce back, we're just going to see what we have in Clevinger? Or do you feel like this frees them up to make another rotation move potentially?
I mean, it could, but I don't know if it necessarily would be Lucas Giolito because he's coming off of a pretty down season, and the White Sox would be selling low in this case. So, like, I don't know about you, but I if I was a White Sox, I would hold on to Giolito unless some team offers the moon. And considering his last season, I don't envision that scenario presenting itself.
Yeah, this is, like you said, probably more of just an attempt to get some value out of someone who has previously been a star caliber player who, like we said, got a haul on his way to San Diego. Now you can have him for money alone. So let's see what happens there. The Clevinger move was not the only one of the weekend, though, if you consider Monday the weekend, which I don't. And I'm going to self-correct there and say, I don't know why I said that was the weekend. But just before this pod went live, Jose Abreu to the Houston Astros. It's something that I think would be considered a gamble. Similarly, if it weren't the defending World Series champions adding a 36-year-old at $20 million a year, I think a lot of people would look at other teams doing that and saying, you got Yordan Alvarez, you got Abreu, one's the DH, one's the first baseman. How are they going to juggle that? Are we sure his power is going to age well? Then he goes to Houston and everybody goes, forget the money. Who cares? Crawford boxes 30 homers next year. How are you feeling in the immediate wake of the Abreu contract?
I think it's a smart move by the Astros because they've been looking for a player like this. They targeted Anthony Rizzo, but of course he ended up re-signing with the Yankees. And it was either you can re-sign a guy like Yuli Gurriel, you could pursue Jose Abreu, you could even look at a guy like Josh Bell. But Abreu was the one that they targeted and they ultimately signed. And I know 3 years for 60 or 3 years for $58.5 million is I believe that's what the number is for Abreu. I believe that number, like it sounds like a lot, but there was predictions that I had heard even last week that he could be looking at like 3 years for like 66, which that blew my mind. Because I just didn't think of the season or after the season that he was coming off of that he'd be getting in the range of like 20 to 22 million a year. But the Astros clearly like him, and it continues their trend of spending without a general manager, which, I mean, that's pretty, I don't know. I think it's very strange, but Jim Crane is obviously very involved there. I think it's Bill Furcus, who is like their point person now, who's their assistant GM as well. So I don't think the Astros are necessarily done by any means, but the Abreu addition was I think that was a very savvy move by them.
Done by not a GM, executed by Jim Crane, I guess. Yeah, these Astros running leaps and bounds around the rest of the league without anybody in charge of the front office at this point. So you mentioned you don't think they're done. I think obviously so the next questions are, where does the first base market go from here and where do the Astros go from here? I think I'll tackle the Astros first just to say, what other needs are there? They upgraded from Yuli Gurriel, who had a tough regular season and a good postseason as always. They upgraded to one of the best hitting first basemen in baseball. So where are the holes? What's next?
I would imagine it's a starting pitcher, especially with Justin Verlander unsigned right now. And John Heyman of MLB Network reported earlier that he's meeting with the Los Angeles Dodgers. And it is no sure thing that I just got okay, never mind. We're all good. But it is no sure thing, in my opinion, that Verlander re-signs with the Astros, because last year it seemed like it was like a pretty strong likelihood that he would re-sign. But this year he's doing more of his due diligence. He ended up meeting with the New York Mets. And Heyman says he's meeting with the Dodgers. So he's meeting with teams. He's doing more than his due diligence here to hear these teams out. And he's going to want a deal, at least according to MLB.com, that is in the range of Max Scherzer's 3-year for $130 million contract. So I'd imagine money in this case is pretty important. And if you look at the 3 teams that are involved, you have, 3 of them that reportedly, at least. I mean, there could be others, but the Mets, Dodgers, Astros, what do they all have in common? They win. And Max Scherzer was pretty sold by Steve Cohen's pitch last year when they ended up meeting on Zoom or even face-to-face. I can't remember which one it was, and now that the Mets have they've shown that they can win in the regular season, it makes them that much more enticing for a guy like Verlander. So you never know.
Yeah, strange October for the Mets, but again, don't let that erase a full regular season where they basically did everything that they promised they would do. The chat's blowing up. I'm going to pivot to a few of these, but obviously a lot of them in a row asking about that pitching market that you brought up. How realistic is Verlander to the Dodgers? Brian chiming in with Jake back to the Mets, JV to the Dodgers or Astros, Rodon to the Rangers or Giants. I'm hearing all sorts of things as a layperson about Rodon, but let's take it one at a time. Evaldi's market, Sox and Chews popping in here. I mean, everybody wants to know about the pitchers, and everybody can see the clear line of demarcation where it goes. Top of the market, Verlander, DeGrom, Rodon, maybe a tick below, but also not really. And then you get to the Evaldi and company. Does the Verlander meeting with the Dodgers, I guess, feel significant to you in that pursuit, or is that more a meeting where both sides get together, the Dodgers give him another short-term high AAV deal, and then he brings it back to the Mets and says, here's what I'm offering, or brings it to the Astros and says, how do you feel about this? The Dodgers have been floating in and out of the high end of the market, but haven't closed the deal a lot lately. Do you think this meeting is significant, or do you think they're just one of many contenders for Verlander services?
See, I've been wondering about this for the high-end pitchers of Rodon, DeGrom, and Verlander. Obviously, those guys are the cream of the crop, but I wonder how many of these teams can actually afford them. And to me, I think any team that meets face-to-face, or I think Heyman said it was face-to-face. I could be getting that wrong. But,
I think you're right. Yeah.
Meeting face-to-face to me is a pretty significant, because that shows to me the interest is serious on both sides. So I don't think they would just be doing that just to be doing it. So I think it's pretty telling there, but I'm really starting to wonder what this market could look like, because ever since Bruce Bochy went to Texas, there has been a lot of dot connecting behind the scenes with Carlos Rodon in Texas. And then in that case, because I think Texas is the biggest threat to sign DeGrom away from the Mets. So let's say that Rodon does go to Texas, then I think it becomes more clear that DeGrom, in that case, might go back to New York. And then where does that leave Verlander? It leaves him with either the Astros or the Dodgers, or maybe a mystery team that's in there. I don't know, but it's fascinating. It's there's not much clarity yet at this point, because it's still pretty early in the offseason, but it's possible. I know there's been reports that Nathan Eovaldi's market's been heating up. I don't necessarily think it's anything close there from what I've gathered. But certainly a lot of these teams are poking around the starting pitching market. So I'm relatively I'm fascinated to see what this next week leading up into the winter meetings brings.
I was collecting Rodon teams just personally over the weekend, and every time I heard a new one, I tried to flag it mentally as possible, not possible. What are we talking about here? But in terms of who can reach DeGrom's number, we've been talking all along about how it seems pretty limited, and who can reach Verlander's number. It's either this slight hometown discount in Houston, like it maybe was last year, or it's the Dodgers, or it's the Mets, or I guess it's the Yankees, but I still am inclined to agree that's probably not so realistic. The Rodon market seems to include many more names. You're seeing the Dodgers, you're seeing the Rangers towards the forefront with him and Senga. I heard the Twins were in contact. I heard the Yankees were in contact. I heard the Phillies were involved. Like you said, we're a ways away, and none of these are going to get settled until one of the big fish goes. But the Rodon market seems pretty massive right now. Is it Texas in the lead, as one of our commenters asked, or is that market just totally unclarified and dependent on what Verlander and DeGrom do?
See, I'm always hesitant to say that somebody's in the lead for a player, because everything can change with one phone call. I've learned that very quickly. There's been cases where I was confident a player was going somewhere, and all of a sudden, 30 minutes later, I get a text saying someone is signing with whoever, and it's just like, oh, I didn't see that coming. So I'm hesitant to say that anybody is in the lead for Rodon or any of these guys, but the interest in Rodon is pretty massive here. And I'm glad that you mentioned the Phillies and the Twins, because I think they're two dark horses in this. The Phillies, they could use another starting pitcher, like a high-end starter to pair with Zach Wheeler and then also Aaron Nola, and he would certainly fit there. The Twins have needed a frontline starter for quite a while now, and they want to compete. And maybe they end up pulling it off with a guy like Rodon, or maybe somebody of a lesser degree. I don't know if they'd be necessarily in on the Verlander and DeGrom sweepstakes, but I could be wrong there. But yeah, I think the Phillies are a really interesting one too. And I'll get into this one because as I mentioned, they could use another like frontline starting pitcher, but they also could use a guy like Trey Turner. And I know they've been connected to Xander Bogaerts, but it's the Phillies to me. I think they're a team that we're not talking about enough in the shortstop market. So I think that might be. Sorry, I'm getting a text.
Yeah, I love this time of year, man, where it's just rumor soup. Like your phone's blowing up. I'm trying to make sense of a sentence that starts with Carlos Rodon and the Phillies and ends with Trey Turner and Xander Bogaerts. And yet somehow I'm nodding along being like, yep, that makes total sense. Like the Phillies are players at the top of the rotation market. The Phillies are players in the shortstop market. The Twins could go for Verlander, Rodon, DeGrom. We just don't know. But the Twins thing reminds me a little bit of the Red Sox in an odd way where, Abreu is one of their targets. They lose out on Abreu. He goes to Houston, or at least one of their rumored targets. And the Red Sox discourse is immediately like, Houston's the world champs, and they gave him an uncomfortable contract. It's both things. They're ahead of you in the standings. They offered a lot of money. So if you want somebody like that, you're going to have to make it uncomfortable on yourself. Yeah. And the Twins front of the rotation situation reminds me of that, where it's like, not going to be the front runners for Rodon. And who knows what they're telling Carlos Correa right now. But they have had a front of the rotation vacancy for 20 years as an AL Central contender most of those seasons. They don't usually bottom out. They win that division a lot. They make the playoffs a lot. And the number one starter is always Scott Baker or Kyle Loesch. There's never a number one starter in Minnesota. So Brad Radke. So like, if you're going to do it, it's going to be uncomfortable. But at some point you have to do it. So why not Rodon?
I'm in total agreement. I'm also trying to figure out the last starter that the Twins had. Like that was a unquestioned ace. It wasn't Johan Santana, was it?
It might have been Liriano, Carl Pavano.
Wow, good shot. I've heard Carl Pavano's name twice in the last week. Like, what's up with that? That's a name that I hadn't heard for like 3 years.
Way too many times.
But no, I do agree though. Like Rodon would be a phenomenal fit for the Twins. I think that's something that they really should explore. I don't know exactly how serious they are on it, but like if I was running the show there, I would do that. But you also got to worry about Correa, because I'm telling you, I would not rule out the Twins for Carlos Correa. The more I've heard about that, like the more it's like, okay, maybe they do have a shot to retain him.
As time marches on, I'm sort of inclined to A, agree with you, and B, when I looked at the secondary teams, are Baltimore Orioles, and maybe the Cubbies, but I'm pivoting away from the Dodgers a little bit there mentally too. I don't know if I should be, but I am.
Sorry, hang on. Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't mean to. Yeah.
No,
sorry.
no. I'm just preparing you. I'm probably gonna start pivoting because these comments section is popping off. That's how you know it's almost the winter meetings.
Damn right.
Everybody wants to know about their team. So we're going to be getting to all of you folks shortly, or at least as many as we can. And those who we don't call out directly, you are inspiring the broadcast today. And, I'm using your questions to direct the conversation. So I'm going to try to hit as many of you as I can. A lot of people want to know about Rodon. A lot of people want to know about the Phillies. Hopefully we've covered some of that. But I don't want to be neglectful of the other team that actually made a move this weekend. We talked about Clevinger. We talked about the late-breaking Abreu deal. I forgot. Smoothest signing of the weekend, Carlos Santana to the Pirates. One of their largest allocations in recent years, honestly, which is weird, but it's true. They decided to take the Carlos Santana plunge. And so we do have Austin Glob asking us where the Pirates are going to pivot after that, after the moves they've already made. My first inclination is to look at that and laugh, but they have already made moves. Carlos Santana, there he is. And he had a pretty good year last year. As a pretty clutch member of the 2022 Seattle Mariners. After the moves they've already made, do you see them being players in the outfield market? And I think that question goes against consensus because I think you and I have seen them in the recent past as players to trade Brian Reynolds, trade from their own outfield. But Ethan Fisher also asking about how active he thinks the Pirates are going to be. And he thinks they're going to pass and thinks they're going to continue to add. Link to Kyle Gibson. What's next for the Pirates and the outfield market specifically, in your opinion?
Yeah, so the Pirates, they are absolutely in on Kyle Gibson, that much I can say. And they are also looking for experienced hitters. And like they've looked at some veteran options in the outfield market. I think maybe a guy like Jace Peterson would make sense for the Pirates. I think that could be someone who they would like because he's got experience. And in the outfield, he could also be like a veteran guy that they could use in the clubhouse too to like, I don't know. I think that is a name that would certainly make sense there, but they are looking at a lot of different options. It's not going to be any of the high end options by any means, but I would fully expect them to add another hitter or two. I would fully expect them to add another starting pitcher. And I think their recent success with Tyler Anderson and Jose Quintana and like revitalizing their careers, I think that is going to be something that other free agents look at and be like, hey, maybe this is like a good spot for me to like get my career back on track on a very low AAV, or maybe like even a mid-tier AAV, like a 5 or 6 or 7 million. But yeah, I think the Pirates are far from done, and it's not going to be next year. It's going to be the year after that where I think their competitive window really starts to open up because they got some talent on that team. It's not often we can associate the Pirates and contending together, but like we're getting close to that point. Ben Cherington has done a very, very, very good job there.
And I think people need to remember when we're talking about players going to the Pirates, like a Kyle Gibson, like a Jace Peterson, and we're talking about, Josh Bell to Detroit is a comment that's been dropped here. Like, do you see them pursuing teams like the Tigers in their current state and the Pirates in their current state are looking to sign to flip? Like you mentioned, Tyler Anderson and Jose Quintana. Any chance the Pirates have to do something like that again, they're going to do it. Because the contention window, it's on the horizon. You got your Henry Davises, you got your O'Neal Cruzes maturing. But right now, any more cracks they can get at mid-season trade deadline deals, they're going to take them. So Kyle Gibson feels like an easy one to me. Yeah, pick up that flyer. See if you can get 10-3, 3.84 out of him and give him away at the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, that's kind of like what the Rangers did a couple of years ago. They ended up signing Gibson or adding Gibson, and all of a sudden they traded him and was it Ian Kennedy to the Phillies? Was that? I think that's right. They ended up getting a decent prospect haul in return. So maybe Pirates can do something like that, or maybe they just sign him for another year or sign him for a year and then try to re-sign him after that year. Like they got some options there, but like Gibson is not the only one that they're looking at, but he is certainly someone that is on the radar. So Pirates continue to be active behind the scenes for sure.
Behind the scenes, but we try to bring the behind the scenes to the front of the scenes. And thanks for the question. Yeah,
that right there is why you subscribe to the Baseball Insiders. Plus for Adam and the great job that he does too, because he's
and Robert and the great job that he does. This is if you're buying stock in a podcast, maybe take your stock buying money, put it in this one, take it out of FTX, leave that sinking ship behind, and drop your money in the Baseball Insiders. You've got like 100 questions here about the Red Sox too, and I find these funny because they're on the same segment of my screen and they directly conflict with each other, and that's what's so fascinating about the Red Sox right now. We've got IC Ghost saying, how do the Red Sox spend their $85 million available? So much money the Red Sox have before they hit these luxury tax thresholds. And you have Brian in the same breath saying, is it looking like Xander Bogaerts won't be coming back to Boston? A lot of teams are interested. And I'm interested in the Bogaerts market for many reasons. But the Red Sox both have so much money to spend and just came up short on Abreu and are opening the door to Xander Bogaerts leaving. So is Bogaerts officially eyeing other opportunities like it feels like he might be? And if so, where's that money going to go? Is Bogaerts the priority 1A and 1B? Or are the Red Sox sort of maybe going to end up sitting on this big pile of cash?
So I'm hesitant to say that Bogaerts is their plan 1A and 1B because he's their plan 1A, 1B, 1C, 1D, and 1E. Like that's Bogaerts is like the Red Sox's top priority here. And the Red Sox not making a like real attempt at re-signing him. I mean, this is kind of the bet that they made themselves. Is like now Scott Boras has the ability to talk to all these other teams and let Bogaerts establish his value on the open market. And that's exactly what he wants to do with each of his free agents. And him talking to these other teams, like that does not mean he's not returning to Boston. That's just him doing his due diligence. It's him like hearing what's out there on the market. I still would be very surprised if Bogaerts does not resign with Boston, but and it may not happen as quick as Red Sox fans or anyone in Boston would prefer. But this is what Boras does. He does not rush the market. He evaluates the market, and then when it's time, that's when he makes a decision. But we also got to remember this: we're not at the winter meetings yet. That's when a lot of this action tends to happen, or like right thereafter. I'm sure we're going to see deals between now and the winter meetings. Like I'm very confident in that. But the Bogaerts one may drag out a little bit longer than people would prefer.
The comment section is also sort of enamored with this idea of maybe Xander going to the winter meetings and never leaving, staying in San Diego by the beach. Maybe he loves Pacific Beach. Maybe he's a Mission Beach guy. Maybe he likes fries in his burritos instead of baked beans. I don't know, but we've got multiple Xander San Diego questions. So you're obviously still picking the Red Sox to ultimately, prioritize Bogaerts above all else and in their eyes get a job done. Is San Diego involved in the proceedings there? Or do you sort of just see it as Sox?
I can't say that I've independently heard that that the Padres are in on these, like on Bogaerts or even Trey Turner or anyone like that. But I wouldn't be surprised because AJ Preller talks to anyone and everyone. He talks to every team. He talks to every agent about every player to see if they could get a value or whatnot. So I'm not necessarily in the camp that believes that the Padres are going to spend big money on a shortstop because they still got to pay Tatis and Manny Machado. They still got to upgrade their rotation. They still need to add they could look at another first base type or kind of like a Josh Bell type because they were also in on Jose Abreu. So I think they're going to probably spend their money in those areas, but I could be wrong. AJ Preller does things that sometimes it's just like, oh crap, I didn't see that coming. But I would be pretty surprised if they ended up signing one of those top shortstops.
I liked Abreu in San Diego too. Obviously, Abreu preferred a ton of money to play for the defending world champions who won 106 games and do so every year. And who could blame him? But I was rooting for Abreu in San Diego. Not going to lie to you. And
that'd be pretty good, especially that lineup.
And now I will be rooting for Xander Bogaerts in San Diego. Sorry, it's what I have to do. First stream of the week, I already got Tigers fans mad at me in the comments saying they're sick of flipping players at the deadline. I'm sorry. I know you are. It's not a fun place to be in right now, but last year was supposed to be the year you made the leap, right? And then Riley Green didn't come up till midseason. Torkelson was Torkelson. So maybe another year. I would say I'm surprised to see a Tigers fan say that Central's not so competitive after I feel like it was America's consensus that the Guardians were competitive ahead of schedule and that the White Sox had a strange step back, but that, we're still right alongside the upper tier. And so were the Twins. I would say that it's moderately competitive. And just because a 91 win team is going to win, it doesn't mean it's not competitive. I don't know what your read on that is, Bert.
No, I'm right there on your side on that one. That I think you summed that one up pretty well.
Yeah. Sorry, I lost us a fan and a subscriber, but Henry, hope you keep coming back because there will be Tigers moves at the winter meetings. And hey, I'm rooting for you, man. I don't want to see you flip these guys. I want to see you sign Josh Bell to a 3-year deal, and he lives out all 3 years in Detroit. While we're talking shortstops, I'd be remiss if I didn't bring up the Dodgers and their fit. There's been a hole there since Trey Turner's contract expired. You're seeing a lot of people saying, the consensus is Turner is probably not so likely to return at this point. They're going to need to fill that gap, but you're reading like maybe they're going to cut payroll pretty significantly this offseason, or at least cut it below the stratosphere that you're used to from LA. Maybe Gavin Lux is the guy. This weekend, for the first time, I saw Willy Adames get officially rumored there, and that the Dodgers have shown interest in an Adames trade. Of course they have. Why wouldn't you? That's somebody that you call on and check in on. You and I have talked about Adames as a trade candidate a little bit. Obviously, it would take a massive haul, but have you heard anything there about that progressing to the point where we have to worry about it, or is that just a Dodgers wish list money-saving opportunity?
I think that's probably a wish list, like more in the pipe dream category, because I just don't see the Brewers looking to trade Willy Adames at this point, at least not yet. And I think a lot of that is going to depend on what those extension talks look like. Just because I think that one, as I mentioned, that's going to be probably north of what Dansby Swanson eventually gets. So it could be relatively expensive, especially with Christian Yelich's contract on the books. But the Dodgers are not the only team that have checked in on Willy Adames. Like another one, the Atlanta Braves. That's just teams doing their homework. It's nothing like I'm not reading too much into it. I would put a lot. I'm pretty confident that Willy Adames is going to be a Brewer by opening day, but that's not going to stop teams from checking in, because look at what happened with Josh Hader. For 3 years, offseason, trade deadline, all these teams checked in on Josh Hader. We're told no. And all of a sudden at the trade deadline this year, you had the Padres call, you had the Houston Astros call, you had a few other teams call and see, hey, is Josh Hader available? Yeah. Oh, okay. Let's make a trade. So, can't rule anything out, but as I said, I'm not getting my hopes up on that one.
What about the other tradable Brewers? I think you want to talk about something that's probably going to pick up at the winter meetings. Heard a lot of buzz about Colton Wong about a week or 2 weeks ago, then basically heard nothing. That feels to me like a winter meeting staple, just a late night Wong bomb. Obviously, the Woodruff and Burns things are a little more pipe dreamy. You're rolling your eyes at late night Wong bomb.
Yeah, that sounds oddly very dirty.
Yeah, didn't roll off the tongue fantastically. I when you say something and you're just not happy at all when it comes out of your mouth, and you're hoping people don't notice, but then you clearly did. That was one of those.
That's about 90% of the things that I say, so I can totally relate to that.
It's like, you're crafting the next sentence, being like, "Why did I say that other thing?" And that's what happened there. But a late night censored feels like a high possibility at the winter meetings. Do you still see Colton Wong being the most likely to move out of those sort of rumored Brewers names?
Yeah, I think Wong is like the buzz among rival executives is that he probably is going to be the next one to be traded by the Brewers if they do indeed trade him. I also wonder about a guy like Eric Lauer. He is someone who's coming off of a pretty solid season, and I can't remember what his exact average or what he's expected to get in arbitration. But maybe the Brewers get interested in him and get an offer that it's enticing to them. So that's another one that maybe. But I think Wong is by far and away like their most obvious trade candidate at this point, now that Hunter Renfroe's gone too.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Right. That also went down.
Yep.
The well-traveled Milwaukee Brewers outfielder who, when they asked him, about did you see this coming or whatnot, he was like, yeah, no, writing's on the wall. I knew I was going to get traded. It's like, all this guy does is get traded. Of course he was.
Yeah. What is this? 5 teams in 5 years for him though?
Mm-hmm.
Bonkers. I'll tell you, it was funny because like I got a text from a rival executive the day that trade was made, probably like 2 hours before it was announced. And he's like, what do you think of Hunter Renfroe's fit for a team like the Angels? And I'm like, yeah, I love that fit. I think that makes a whole lot of sense. And all of a sudden, 2 hours later, the teams announce it. And he's like, dude, I was trying to tip you off. And I was like, make it more clear, man. You're killing me. Yeah.
You got to read the signals. It's like when your girl asked you if you like her in this dress. Like, of course you do. Why wouldn't you? But like, she's going to buy it. She's not just asking. She doesn't want your take on fashion. She wants to wear it.
Especially mine. Yeah, I'll tell you. I let anyone besides me pick up my clothes. It's yeah.
I did get in a lot of trouble once for saying, and fellas, if you with me, of course this is a baseball offseason pod. I once said, like, of course you look great, but also I can't tell the difference between a good and a bad dress. And I got roasted for that. All dresses are fine. Right? They're all
fine. You got much to learn, young grasshopper, even though you're the married one here.
Married man, elder pod statesman. And like, of course, this is a baseball nerd podcast, is like, aren't all dresses good? But I did have that take and I got flambéed for it. So chime into the comments if you think all dresses are good.
Yeah, I mean, I'm in that camp too. So I got no arguments on that one. So we like it.
We love it. What else do we have to? I mean, honestly, the comments are overwhelming. Makes me think we're going to have to get a separate server for the Winter Meetings podcast. But I love the chatter. There's nothing like it. I wanted to ask about Joely Rodríguez at some point, and then I was like, well, I don't really have to ask about Joely Rodríguez. I don't have to do a Red Sox bullpen specific pod. Then somebody asked about it. So you do have to wonder. It is funny to watch. The dam isn't exactly breaking on the bullpen market, and yet here are the Red Sox just going, we've signed Mets 6th inning man Joely Rodríguez, everybody. Pay attention to us very briefly. Is that an upside play? Is that a depth play? And clearly there was no, like, the market looked at the Joely Rodríguez signing and they were like, all right, cool, enjoy. Like, there was no ripple effect. How do you perceive that? The first of many moves for the Sox, or just sort of a way to allocate some resources?
I think it's the first of a bunch of moves that they're going to end up making. They have so much money to spend, and I think they have to spend it. But I don't know. I don't know. There's a lot of things that I want to say. I don't know if I can necessarily say them, but I will say that signing was regarded by a bunch of people as like a relatively strong signing by the Red Sox, because they thought the contract that he got was pretty light and it was pretty team friendly. So I think the Red Sox did well there, but I don't know. I got a lot of thoughts on the Red Sox here. I gotta be, maybe I share them on the next one when I can think those through more clearly, but it's not promising.
They still think, the fans still think they're an Aaron Judge mystery team for whatever reason. And the Red Sox are screaming loud and clear that they're going to behave a little differently now. Before we wrap the pod, I feel like it's strange that I've gotten this far and have not gotten an Aaron Judge update from you, just because obviously that's pretty important to the way I operate on a daily basis. I'm not going to put too much emotional stock in it, but Judge had his week touring with the San Francisco Giants last week. He did go home for Thanksgiving. During his time home, met with the team, supposedly very encouraging for them. Steph Curry gave him a little call, said, it's pretty fun to play in the Bay Area. Judge probably said, thank you for the call. Pretty irrelevant, but thanks for dropping by. And then after all that, Jeff Passan still said, I see the Yankees as the favorites here. I don't want to name favorites. I don't want to name front runners. But do you feel like the San Francisco week changed the calculus at all? Or was this just the normal free agent process playing out?
I have a bunch of different thoughts on this one. And I think obviously Judge going to visit San Francisco shows once again that both sides are serious about a potential partnership here. And the Giants certainly have the money to sign Judge. Like Farhan Zaidi was pretty adamant at the GM meetings that they had the financial capability of signing anyone. And that would include Aaron Judge. But Judge's visit with the Giants, something, I don't know. There was a video of him in San Francisco. Like Judge, like he's kept everything private about his free agency. And then all of a sudden this is made public. I wonder if that was for a reason or if he just had like a random fan approach him. I can't remember how the video surfaced. But the fact that
went right to John Morosi, who had it first, and it was sort of like there was a little MLB Network tie-in too. It was certainly pretty polished.
Yeah, and I just thought that was weird, and I wonder if that was out there for a reason. And that's just me like speculating. I don't have any insight on that one, but like I don't know, something didn't feel right there. So I wondered if there was like a hidden meaning behind it, but I certainly think if there is a team that could steal Judge away from the Yankees, it is the Giants. They like him a lot.
Yeah, it remains the Giants for me too, but you're right. The things that you won't say that I will say is it did feel a little manufactured. It seemed to drop right at the point when everybody was sort of counting the Yankees in the driver's seat here. And it was sort of with so few teams in the Judge chase, like it's the Yankees, it's the Giants, it's kind of the Dodgers, probably the Dodgers. And beyond that, if there are mystery teams behind the curtains, announce yourselves now, because this thing's going to get resolved relatively soon. With so few teams to drum up leverage from, how are you going to do it other than making the Giants' pursuit feel as realistic as possible? So that's what it kind of felt like to me. Not saying he's not going there. They're obviously considering him strongly. And maybe Hal Steinbrenner is lying to everyone's faces when he says we'll outbid X team for Judge. But the market is limited, so how else do you make a free agency tour? You make the Giants portion of the free agency tour as dramatic as possible. And that's coming from me, not you.
No, exactly. And yeah, I'll tell you, Steinbrenner going on the record and saying that they won't be outbid for Aaron Judge. I've mentioned it on this pod before, and I'll say it again. Like that was not something that I would do, because if Judge leaves, you're going to look really, 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 really bad. And that just places an unnecessary target on your back. And also, it gives a tremendous amount of leverage to a guy like Paige Odell, who is Judge's agent. Like, I'm telling you, like, Paige Odell has handled this very, very, very well. Like, he's not had anything leak that he didn't want. And like, we don't know much about Judge's free agency. No. And there's a lot of mystery. And you got the Yankees owner saying, we're not going to be outbid. You have the Giants having him out for a free agent tour. So far, I think he's handling it very well. I'm very curious to see what his contract eventually looks like. But I know you said I know you said we're probably going to get like a resolution soon. I don't know about that. Yeah, this could be another one that maybe drags on. Maybe even happens at the winter meetings, but I'm not getting my hopes up. A contract like that takes a lot of time and obviously ownership being involved too.
I think it's funny, and I think it's reflective of the environment that Aaron Judge is a free agent. And look at the comments. Everyone had questions about everybody else. All the big four shortstops, the Red Sox, the Phillies, the Cubs, the Dodgers, the pitching market, DeGrom, Verlander. These names are flying, and Aaron Judge is just kind of like, nobody is asking about our thoughts on Aaron Judge here, even though he is the nearly unanimous AL MVP 62 home run hitter, and everyone's just kind of resigned to him as the wallpaper in this free agency cycle, which is very funny to me. No,
it's very funny. You want to know something? Because I just missed an NFL scoop. I'm not kidding you. 3 minutes ago, I got a text saying Melvin Gordon of the Chiefs, and it just got reported by Ian Rappaport.
Did that just happen?
That just happened. Yeah, I could have dropped some NFL news in the Baseball Insiders. Son of a gun.
Golly. Well, if you're watching the Baseball Insiders, you probably aren't on Twitter right now. You probably didn't know. And there you go. Melvin Gordon in the Chiefs backfield. How many running backs is too many running backs for the Kansas City Chiefs? That's a weird one. That's actually weird.
Yeah, I'll tell you, Wisconsin legend Melvin Gordon. I was at the game when he broke the single game rushing record against Nebraska.
I remember that.
Me, my dad, my buddy Max, and another buddy Todd. So shout out to all those guys. Gotta give them some love on the Baseball Insiders here.
I would love to be a part of big time Big Ten college football. I feel like
obviously
Michael Scott. I feel like Michael Scott saying, I love inside jokes. I'd love to be a part of one someday. Never really done the major college football thing. I don't have those memories. Sucks.
No, that's one of 2 games that I've gone to. So we're sorry. 2493528. My apologies for bringing up football.
Back to are furious.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I'm telling you. We're for 2 seconds there we were the football insiders, but now we're back to the baseball insiders. My apologies.
We will never ever steer in the other direction again, unless Bert's Eagles or my Giants are in the Super Bowl, which it's possible for one of those 2 teams to be in the Super Bowl. Before we wrap it up, winter meetings next week. Just want to get your pulse on. We know it's going to be crazy. Which deals right now are you sort of eyeing? Which names are more in play than others? What should we be looking out for right when the winter meetings begins?
So I would not expect from now until the winter meetings. I don't expect any of those big shortstops or the big high end starting pitchers. I don't expect them to sign before the winter meetings. Maybe it does happen during. But if there's one of those starting pitchers that signs, I bet you it's a guy like Eovaldi. But I would expect maybe a run on relievers because we haven't really had that one yet. I'll tell you, a guy that I think could end up getting a healthier contract than you'd expect is a guy like Matt Strom. He pitched very well for Boston last year. Flew a little bit under the radar, and he had some hiccups here and there. And there's not really that many left-handed relief options on the market. So I think you can end up getting a relatively healthy 1 or 2 year contract. So I think he's one that I'm watching, but I don't expect any of those top guys to go. But I could be wrong, but that's my indications as of right now.
Whether they go or not, there's going to be a lot of late night talking in beautiful San Diego, California, and you're going to be on site. I can't wait for you. I'll be here. I'll be in New York. I will not be moving. But I was just in San Diego, beautiful city. Hope you get to see some of it while you're out there chasing scoops and leads. But we are going to be beyond busy the week of the winter meetings, and I'll be here to hopefully facilitate some notebook emptyings daily as we get more clarity on what the market provides. Robert Murray, thanks so much as always, man, for helping out. There's no show without you, and this was a power-packed one coming out of the Thanksgiving holiday. I don't think I expected it to be this power-packed until we got on, and I was like, mercy. It's overflowing. People want the information, and we have it. But thank you so much for making that happen, man.
No, thank you. And the show would not be possible without you, man. I appreciate you as always. I appreciate everybody watching. Without you guys, the show is absolutely not possible. I think I can speak for both Adam and I on that one. But if you could please subscribe, that helps out a lot and allows us to provide that information for you guys twice a week. But yeah, I appreciate you guys. We'll see you Thursday.
We'll see you Thursday. You guys are the best. Like Robert said, and subscribe to the channel. And if you missed the live feed, the audio feed, we got a couple of questions. Will be on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all those good spots, wherever you enjoy your podcast in your downtime. If Monday at 3:30 Eastern isn't for you, get the scoops on the go by subscribing to the Baseball Insiders on your favorite podcast app and listen to it after the fact. But we are going to be here live Thursday, 3:30 Eastern, and then plenty of times the next week. Might even get to break the Hall of Fame, Baseball Hall of Fame. Maybe going to let Barry Bonds in next week. Probably not, but one can dream. Somebody's getting in, probably Fred McGriff. We might break it on this podcast. But until Thursday, Bert, thanks so much, man. Great show as always.
Thank you, man. I appreciate you. We'll talk to everybody on Thursday.
Bye, y'all.